I'm Rose. I work as a graphic designer for a large tech company. I live with my husband Daniel in our cozy little house. Although it isn't very big, it fits the both of us really well, plus some extra room for when we have guests over. My husband worked as a bus driver for the local school, and with me working late hours for my tech company, we didn't really have too much time to spend together. At most, we'd only have a couple of hours a day, and sometimes we didn't see each other at all until after he'd gone to sleep. I felt sort of bad about it, but there wasn't much I could do. Living on opposite shifts did make things difficult at times. That is, until COVID hit. The world was going through a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and a lot of people began to get laid off from their jobs and lost their pay. Thankfully, I wasn't one of them. My job was pretty independent from the other people at my company, so I was allowed to go to work still. But my husband wasn't so lucky. They shut down the schools so kids could do online classes instead, leaving Daniel without a job. I thought this would be the perfect time to rekindle our relationship, but Daniel spent all the time moping about how he lost his job. I let him grieve for a while, but after a week of nonstop complaining and moaning, I was getting a little tired of it. I just felt that he needed to snap out of it. After all, the pandemic would end, and he could either return to his old job or find a different one. Finally, he began to improve slightly. He stopped moping around, but he still seemed like a shell of the man I loved. But one day, he suddenly perked up again. He was happy and smiling and seemed like a new man. When I asked him what was going on, he told me he had a surprise for me after work. I was so excited, I couldn't believe he had gotten me a gift after all this time. Maybe it was the set of earrings I had told him I wanted. But when I got home, it wasn't a pair of earrings or jewelry or even a present at all. Instead, I found his mother waiting for us in the kitchen.
I invited my mother to stay with us. She lost her job because of the pandemic as well. So I said she could stay here for a bit until she recovers.
What?
I know! She's moving into the guest room. Isn't it great?
I tried to be supportive and loving to my husband, but I couldn't believe he had made such a big decision without even consulting me, especially during a unique situation as a pandemic. I'd met his mother a few times before this, and she'd always been kind to me, but it was something entirely different for her to move in like this. After all, our home was small, and I had no way of knowing if she would mesh well with our lifestyle. In the end, I decided for the sake of our marriage that she could stay. Boy, would I ever regret that decision. The next few days, things went well. Daniel was happy again, and I was off to work, and my mother-in-law was happily situated in our guest room. But soon, she began to make weird comments to me like, "Why aren't the dishes done yet?" Or, "Why is my son's room so messy? Haven't you cleaned it yet?" Finally, after a few days of this, I got tired of it, so I explained to her that Daniel and I split the chores. He cleans up half of the time, and I do it the other half. On my nights, the house is always spotless, but Daniel's room is always a mess. He rarely cleans up after himself, but as long as it doesn't bother me, then I don't clean it up for him. But then I began to notice an attitude shift in Daniel. He began to act cruel to me and started demanding more of me even after work. I was fine doing my fair share of the chores around the house, but he was making me do his chores as well. I wondered what got into him until I heard his mother talking to him.
You can't let her take advantage of you like this. She's the woman of the house, so she's the one that should be doing the chores around here, not my poor baby. She's working you to death.
She actually still believed all of that? My mother-in-law thinks like she is in the 60s. No wonder Daniel was acting so rude to me lately. His mother had been filling his head with these outdated ideas. We had agreed when we first bought a house that we'd split the chores and cleaning duties. Now he was trying to dump them all on me because I'm the wife? This was not going to be tolerated. After all, I had married a partner, not someone that I would view as my master. I stepped in and confronted them about it. You can't possibly mean that. Daniel has his share of chores too, and I have work. How am I supposed to get everything done around here when I have a full-time position on top of all these extra chores?
Well, why do you have a job if you're the wife? You should be at home while my son earns a living for you both.
But he lost his job. I'm the only one making money here. Daniel, say something.
I think she's right. You should submit to me and stay home and clean the house. After all, I'm the man of the house, and it's my duty to go and earn the money here.
My spineless, lazy husband was siding with his mother over me. What a rat! I was boiling with rage at both of them. Over the next few days, the arguments got worse between his mother and I. She was constantly making me do more chores while her son lazed about, not lifting a single finger to help me. Whenever I asked him, he just said it was the woman's job to clean. I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I had to stay with my husband and his psychotic mother and be their little maid. Sometimes I felt like they'd purposefully leave giant messes for me to find and clean. But then one day...
I noticed you were spending a lot of time on that computer of yours, and your chores weren't getting done, so I threw that dusty thing away. You're welcome.
Yeah, I use that computer because it's my job. I rushed out to the trash and found my computer smashed up in the dumpster. I couldn't contain my rage anymore, so I confronted Daniel about it and told him that he had to choose. Either she goes, or I would. Daniel was conflicted for a second, but then he said,
How could I ever choose a girl over my own mom? That would be wrong.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I wasn't just a girl. I was his wife. It was clear, though, that he had made his choice. I called into work and told them what happened to my computer. Luckily, it was covered by their policies and insurance, so they shipped me a new one free of charge. Since the house was entirely in Daniel's name, I knew that I had nothing to lose by leaving, and so I packed my bags and left Daniel and his mother in the house alone. I rented out a hotel room and stayed there for a while before I found a cheap apartment all to myself. Thankfully, I had a large savings from all my work, so I was doing fine. I even got a promotion recently because of all the extra hours and hard work that I was putting in. It still bothered me that Daniel would choose his mother over our marriage, but as time passed, I began to understand that having her move in was a blessing. It showed me what kind of man Daniel truly was. Some months passed and Daniel called me, begging me to come back home. He and his mom were running out of money since they didn't have anyone with a job around to pay for things. I just laughed and told him he should have thought about that before he made the only one who was supporting him storm out. Then I hung up on him. It felt good to tell him off, although I wished that his mother had also been on the line so that I could have had words with her as well. Another couple of months flew by, and a mutual friend of ours told me that they had seen a sign on our front door that read, "Foreclosure." Apparently, the two of them couldn't afford to pay for the mortgage, and they fell behind on the payments until the bank was forced to foreclose on them. I spoke with a friend of mine that worked for the bank, and I asked her what would become of the house. As it turned out, the bank only wanted someone to take over the mortgage, and since I had gotten a promotion along with a raise, I felt confident that I could hold and pay for the house all by myself. And so, I put a bid in for the home, and the bank approved right away. 2 weeks later, my ex-husband and his mother were evicted from the home, and I was given the keys to my house, and I headed straight over there to begin moving my things back in. It was a bit lonely at first, and I missed my apartment. But having the whole house to myself was amazing. I don't know if he realizes that I was the one that bought the house from the bank, and I don't particularly care. I'm just enjoying being back in my house. Maybe one day he'll come crawling back to me. But if he thinks that I'll take him back, now that I've seen who he truly is, then he will be in for a rude awakening when I slam the door in his face. Thanks for watching. Please like the video for the algorithm.